I spent a surprising amount of time this morning trying to find the perfect shirt for today's Berserk video. I succeeded in that mission. Wow, Kayla's shirt is basically a crop top on me. Berserk! Conviction Arc, Birth Ceremony, Chapter, Daybreak. Where we left off, the Tower of the Fanatics had fallen into rubble, with our party narrowly escaping the danger. And if I had known how close I was to the end of this section, I would have finished it last video, darn it. But that does mean for this video I get to finish this section and then do something a bit special at the end here in terms of Berserk. But first, let's go ahead and talk about a conclusion to this section that I don't think if you told me what the conclusion was without me reading it, I would think it was as good of a conclusion as it is, but it successfully makes me like this entire arc a lot more than I already did.
And this video is brought to you by...
Or as it's said in human, NordVPN.
The day and age of the internet now is
Spoopy, and I'm not just talking about the season.
It has never been more important to be protected online. Companies are out there profiting on your private data.
So whether it's securing passwords, storing encrypting files, or safeguarding your personal information and internet activity, NordVPN's advanced threat protection helps keep you safe from a multitude of cybersecurity threats. NordVPN's advanced threat protection wants you to feel safe while browsing, neutralizing threats before they can do substantial damage. This is Nord. This is what they'll do. Yeah! That was them protecting you. It helps identify threats like malware or ransomware and works to avoid malicious website and even blocks trackers, intrusive ads, and all that junk, allowing you to search and view websites faster and smoother. Choose from among over 5,600 NordVPN servers worldwide. When you enable the threat protection feature on your NordVPN app setting, it protects your browsing even when you're not connected to the NordVPN server. You can secure up to 6 devices. Is that not enough? Do you have more than 6? Do you have a device buying addiction? Best of all, they have a 30-day money-back guarantee, which means if you try NordVPN out, if it's not for you, you can go ahead and get your money back. So go ahead and head on over to nordvpn.com/green with an E on the end to check out this exclusive deal and save big. But as the sun crests over the horizon, we see Jerome saying, "What an awful mess. Not a single person in the tower survived. We're lucky to still be alive. Both the tower and the monsters gone in a night. I don't suppose we were just dreaming." I have one note already here, Jerome. There's a lot of rubble here, and you're just walking around going, wow, everyone's dead. You're not gonna search even a little? And I know what you're thinking. Well, he probably was already searching. No, he was not. We'll get to that in a second, because we have a very touching moment here where we see Guts and Casca are together, and she's not freaking out. She's not running from him. She seems to be okay with him at her side, which... small moments of joy. The slight slivers of sweetness you get reading Berserk are so much more satisfying due to the overwhelming dread that permeates all of the rest of it. Oh, I want him to hug. As we see spilling from the barrel, and as she is referred to, poofy-haired girl is alive. And if Jerome had been walking around calling out like, hey, is anyone all right? I'm pretty sure she would have heard him if he had been looking for hours and trying to clear rubble, maybe checking some of the barrels, but no. He just got up as the sunrise and was like, everyone's dead here. I love to imagine Jerome like rolling up to a collapsed building. Like there's still people screaming inside, but he's like, no. I'm pretty sure they're all dead. But yeah, she doesn't deserve a name. She's just poofy-haired girl, because I really dislike her. But Nina, or poofy-haired girl, is immediately wondering where Luca is. And then we hear, after they start calling Luca's name, further proving my point, Luca responds, because she is just at the bottom of a well, and she says, down here, hurry, and pull me up. I'm freezing my ass off here. Luca! And Luca is pulled to safety. Jerome comes to her, obviously still smitten, and Luca says, sorry to worry you, Jerome. Of all the fool. But he's interrupted by poofy-haired girl and Puck blocking him. Puck. With the full context, you would be way more amping up Jerome here for Luca than this poofy-haired traitorous mother. But just as they're beginning to relax and celebrate that every core member of this party survived, spears stab into the ground around them, thrown from a distance. Isidoro says, "Huh, what gives?" And we see a contingent of the foreign Vaeming army has arrived. Isidoro says, "Kushan! These guys are Kushan!" "What?" Jerome says, "Why are they here?" Puck observes, "Those are the guys from before." Casca sees Guts grab his sword and lets out a small noise. We see the commander of the Kushan say, "Could he be the one?" His bodyguard's answering, "I don't know." But just as the oracle proclaimed, something has happened in this pagan land. Though it's hard to believe suddenly, and they all certainly survived in the midst of that monstrosity. The one we seek is likely among them. "Give me a break, we lived all the way till now for this? I call foul." Greed. "I care not if they suffer some injuries. Seize all of them. There's especially no need to go easy on the man with the large sword. Don't presume you can capture him without suffering casualties. Women and the kids, stay here," Guts says, and starts brutalizing the men descending on them. "This is why I said, there is no time for leisurely witch hunting," Serpico says. "Well, I guess they die when you stab them, which is better than monsters." And we see the fighting continues, and our party has a bit of banter back and forth. Serpico saying, "Personal feelings aside, in this situation, there's no one more reassuring to fight beside than you. Nevertheless, I'd say we're out down here." "No kidding," Gus responds. "They're a troublesome enemy from which to protect the kid and the women. But what I'm even more anxious about is the party's strength. They've been straining all night against monsters they're not used to fighting. They must be at their limits." We see a rope ensnares the party's women, but before Guts can even move to save him, which to be honest, I'm sure he would, it's Guts. A mace descends, slamming into one of the men holding the rope. "Heathens! What are you doing on our holy ground?" What tenacity. "Azan!" "Thankfully you are unharmed, Lady Fernice." "Yes. How did you survive, Vice Commander?" "The details can wait. First, we must deal with the situation at hand. I was away just a while, but strange things are afoot." I like to think the reason Guts is going heh there is he's like, "This is strange for you?" It's like a 6 out of 10 for me. "Here they come." And I'm a little bit confused because, like, weren't they already coming? Phrasing. But just then, the ground begins shaking, and from the rubble comes Nosferatu fucking God! The attacking party freezes in terror. "What is that?" the bodyguard observes. "More of last night? Nothing can surprise me now," Luca says. "Don't say that in this world, Luca. You haven't seen a bunch of children turn into vicious flesh-eating bugs that you have to kill with like a fly swatter." And Zod begins chasing the attacking party. This is truly amazing, and no time for admiration. It is time to escape. You're right. I like that even people who might be killed by Zod take the time to go. Amazing. Amazing. Just amazing in existence. I know that's not actually the context, but I'm taking it that way. You're right. Everyone stay together. We're slipping away, Azan says. Guts looks to the top of the wall, seeing the Death Knight. The Death Knight points off, and Guts is frozen in shock. On the horizon, we see birds descending into a light, and within the light, a figure is revealed to us. A newly made Griffith, in his human form. At that moment, all who were there forgot to breathe and were enthralled. Zod begins approaching Griffith. "Griffith," Guts says, and Zod finally reaches Griffith, falling to his knees. "Zod? You fucking traitor! How could you kneel to Griffith? Oh my God! Oh my lord. What?" Okay, let me explain, because I think in hindsight this should be obvious, but I credit you all because I kept hyping up Zod and no one was warning me like, hey, maybe don't be a fan of this guy. So I took all of his rhetoric as maybe like talking out the side of his mouth. When Griffith returned, I thought Zod was going to want to try and kill him to prove his own strength. I thought it was like double talk, like misdirects. No, he kneels. I celebrated you. I trusted you. One-horned, lopsided Oh my God. Enormous joy my ass. More appropriate. Much more appropriate. And they sensed intuitively that the one they desired had come. Guts immediately enters a berserker moment, but he hears a small noise. And comes back into himself. Casca behind him, reaching out for him to come back. And that moment, that beautiful, beautiful moment of character catharsis. Guts, who has been completely dominated and motivated by his rage, actually follows through on his promise and comes back to Casca, not blindly pursuing Griffith. I'm not now, but actually when I first read this, I teared up a little and just had this moment of, that's healing. That's real healing. And Berserk is displaying it so well. Being able to see what hurt you and not let it consume or drive you and stay by someone more vulnerable, someone who needs you. That is just... I love Berserk. The leader of the Kushan points, "Capture that man! All of you!" They protest, saying it's not their mission, but he doubles down. "Do not fear, even if he is something other than human. We are a warrior clan. Know that those who fear death shall never join the ranks of the great." Ooh, I don't know if this is trying to pull from like multiple cultures, like Viking stuff. That sounded very Viking to me because, like, you know, Valhalla. But I'm really fascinated to learn more about these people. This is a once-in-a-lifetime chance. Capture him before the main army arrives. And we see Zod begins butchering the men sent after him. Azan says, "Few of them remain here now. Keep up." And I don't love Azan as a person, but I definitely respect his ability to keep his head about him and be like, okay, now's our time to get out. That's, again, part of like Berserk's strength as a series. So often in fantasy series, if someone's not someone you're supposed to love as a person, they just never make good calls, they never direct or try and command in a good way. Berserk always remembers, just because you're not supposed to like someone or just because they haven't evolved to the point to yet where they are on your side, they can still be someone who is in charge, and there's a reason they've been put in the position they're in. And Azan is showing me, oh, part of his characterization, he's a really good leader who can keep his wits about him, which we've seen before from him. I'm just pointing it out again. But we see the party has accidentally become separated from Guts and Casca. Some of the men begin to close in around Guts. Puck says, "Guts, we gotta hurry." Guts puts one arm around Casca, both of them looking to Griffith, a manifestation of their trauma and pain made flesh. Griffith looks back. The party continues its flight, Jerome grabbing Isidoro, forcing him to come along. Just then, as they crest a hill, they witness a massive army arriving. "They haven't noticed us," Azan says. "We'll descend the cliff and escape along the river." Isidoro says, "No! You're just gonna leave those two?" Trying to get back to Guts and Casca. "What choice have we got?" Jerome says. "It's really life or death this time. Son of a bitch." But then they freeze, in the distance seeing Griffith riding Zod's winged form off to safety. God, I hate Zod now. Why did I have this expectation that he was going to try to kill Griffith? I thought it was going to be a conflict between Guts and Zod over who got to kill Griffith, but no, he's just a kneeler. He's just a no good kneeler. There's another commotion from the wall. Isidoro looks back, seeing Guts on horseback, killing men pursuing him. And I love that. I love that the author knows that we know Guts well enough that he doesn't have to show us how Guts got out of what he was in. We just, yeah, he did. But he and Casca managed to get to safety. Serpicchio wondering if those two can escape an army, but Luca observes, "Don't worry. If the horseman's him, I'm sure he'll do what it takes to protect Elaine." And Jerome, looking over some refugees who managed to escape the catastrophe, says, "It's ironic. All those who clung to God, taking refuge in the tower, died when it collapsed under their weight. The non-believers who didn't rely on God, but instead hightailed it out of the refuge slum, were the ones who survived. I don't exactly care to pray ever again at this point." "That's not it at all," Luca observes. "Trying to go on living is different than trying to escape from fear. Those who acted in order to live until the end, without losing themselves to fear, and what was happening around them, are the ones who survived properly. We don't know what God is thinking, and he forces uncontrollable fortune and misfortune upon people. But even so, he leaves them room to work things out for themselves." That is a really good counter, Luca. As a not particularly religious person myself, I like that Berserk is kind of taking this angle of like, yeah, blind faith isn't what a god would want from you. You still have your own agency. You're still your own person. There's a little bit of a gray not taking into account from both of these people right now, but there's room being made for two arguments, neither of which I entirely agree with, but I think it's nice to have them both put forward by characters from two vastly different perspectives. Luca's working on something in her hands though, and poofy-haired girl says, "Luca, what's that for?" "Oh, this? The chick that died within the egg." "Huh?" "He died without ever hatching, without ever meeting or knowing anyone. A lonely one like him is sleeping alone under all that rubble. I thought I would pay him tribute. Any sort of sinner needs at least one person, but if his wish was granted, what's in store for the world?" well, doesn't make much difference what I think of it. Luca is genuinely in my top 5 Berserk characters now. She is fantastic. Isidro has packed up a bag though and says, "Take care, ladies, and to the rest." Now those were some restless people. I wonder if she'll be okay. Didn't I say so? As long as that swordman is with her, no worries. It didn't even bat an eye at that monster Moscus. It's just one thing bothers me, Luca continues. The power to protect someone and the power to be with someone are different. But now I'm being overly maternal. It's a bad habit of mine. No, that's not true. No, it's not, Luca. You're being very observant. The one who's really strong is Luca. She always has time to worry about people. I could never mimic her. All this has made me realize my own disgrace and foolishness so much. It's sickening. I'm going to cool my feet off. Are you okay? Yeah, it's just gotten well enough that I can go alone. No, I'm actually relieved. Now that I know that, I'll stay at Luca's side, listen to her, and let her protect me. That's the best thing for me, I'm sure. Nina? Who's there? Joachim, you were all right? Yeah. I was scared to go back to the refugee slum after that. I've been hiding in the mountains. Oh, you're a coward like her. No, I'm kidding. I would hide in the mountains too, honestly. And Nina, I'm being too hard. In these circumstances, I doubt I would do much better. I forgive you. And I even pointed out last time that you're really being one of these characters who's representing like our own fear and how we really behave in this situation. And I was just kind of riding a meme. So it's okay, Nina. I wish you the best. I saw all of you run over this way, and so I wanted to apologize to you. Back then, I was scared of you. I thought if I didn't betray you, you all would kill me. Yeah, it's kind of a reasonable fear, man. You witnessed some really messed up stuff. There'd be a true crime documentary about that for sure. I can't just say this now, but I really I thought maybe if we were together, and still I was a coward who abandoned you. I'm sorry. He's the same as me. The same. Goodbye. Wait. This feels a little bit forced and weird to me. I didn't feel like these two had a strong enough connection to overcome what exactly went down there, but alright, I'll take it. Here we cut to Lady Farnese, who's thinking to herself, a tower of rubble. It disappeared like a sandcastle. Fragile. All too fragile. The thing I stood for. The thing I had faith in. Was it so empty a thing? Faith. No, not that. It was nothing more than diversion. Hiding myself behind order and awe. To escape fear, to escape frantically the darkness of that night from my childhood. And at times, it was even an outlet for desire. My faith was sullied, which was supposed to protect me, was brushed away so easily. In the face of overwhelming unfamiliar darkness, I was again, no, perhaps I've always been, in the midst of that night. Unlike Nina, I haven't really made it a meme. It's been genuine, my distrust and disgust of Lady Farnese, but if Berserk has proven to me one thing, it's that I should have faith in this series' ability to give very flawed characters incredible emotional arcs of growth so that they can eventually prove themselves worthy of being a fan of, for lack of a better way to put it. So I accept that Lady Farnese could be someone who I eventually love, but not really look in the eye that well. We get filled in on how Azen survived basically by chance, and he's clearly suffering from some survivor's guilt. We see Lady Farnese is walking from this party though. Lady Farnese? Serpico says, I'm departing. Are we returning to the Holy City then? I will follow the Black Swordsman. What? You mustn't. We must return to give our report. I'm renouncing my vocation. Tell that to the Holy See and my father. Well, that is the way of things, Serpico says. You have been most helpful, Vice Commander, and he leaves with Lady Farnese. No, wait a moment, wait you two! This is desertion! Lady Farnese's inner monologue continues. I never escaped from that childhood darkness after all. Then ultimately, it took shape and appeared before my eyes, almost as if it were my destiny. I, who continued to live in fear, was brought along with the Black Swordsman, the only one standing in the darkness. This use, thematically, for one character's realization to pull them out of a cult-like mentality is entirely derived from a crystal clear understanding from the author of how other people would witness Guts in this world, with a mixture of fear that would obviously turn into reverence once they understand his borderline religious mission in its own right, in a loose definition of that terminology. And it's so appropriate that this, on my first read through, was actually the moment where I was like, okay, Lady Farnese actually really could go through some awesome redemption here, and I love that. Maybe he is my prophet, my saint. Though you need to overcome that. Don't stop. No, don't start worshiping just some guy. Realize that you can live in this world as your own individual, separate from your faith, but also take solace in it. That's something that Lady Farnese needs to strive for, and I'm waiting to see it come to fruition. And we see the remaining party notices that Nina's taking a long time. We cut to Nina. Are you sure? Yeah. If I went back now, I don't think I could leave again. She thinks, I'm sorry, Luca, to worry you to the very end. I'm going with Joachim. I love all of you, but if I stayed with you, I'm sure I someday would hate you again. And hate myself. A person hurts someone just because they're strong, and they hate someone just because they're weak. I know that well enough. That's why I think I'll go with this man, who is burdened with the same weakness and sin as I. Because if I'm with him, I have a good feeling we can both become just a little kinder and stronger. I want to be someone who can trust others without clinging to them. I want to live, keep on going, and see you again, without clinging or fearing. Once I can smile with you in sincerity. And cut back to Luca, still waiting for Nina, saying, she really is a troublesome girl. And the final panel shows us the Death Knight and the words,
That day, starting with the fissure opening on the frontier, the shape of the world began to crumble.
I know that wasn't the most amount of ground we've ever covered in a Berserk video, but I think it's very understandable why I did that bit so detailed. Even Nina's bit at the end there was such a raw reflection of human flaws. Maybe a bit too self-aware, but after the extreme circumstance she just went through, I can buy it. No, I don't narratively entirely believe her just like wandering off with this guy, but it does work thematically, and I'm okay with it because of that. Overall, this was just such a incredible amount of character development and emotional weight stuck into an actiony end that I'm kind of floored by it. I rarely have come across mid-series, not even like end of the whole thing, something that is so powerful. I get it's the end of like an arc, but still. And that is why I've decided we're gonna finish this video in a special
The Batman intro! That's right, we're at the green screen now. Because I would like to bestow 2 awards on Berserk. I think it's damn well earned. 1, it's absolutely in my top 5 fantasy series of all time. I rarely have had such an emotional range from a series delivered to me so spectacularly. And after thinking about it quite a bit, yeah, it's the first manga that I can confidently say is in my top 5 and shows absolutely no sign of leaving it. And it's gonna get a Strange Other award, the most misunderstood fantasy series outside of its fandom I've ever come across. Don't get me wrong though, I understand why there is so much misunderstanding around this series. The author himself has regrets about how he handled certain things, and yeah, it's fair to criticize it for those reasons. But it's massively overcome them, in my opinion, and as someone who's had to deal with emotional duress and trauma, loss of friends, and things happening to them that are extremely unpleasant, I've rarely felt as seen by a series and how characters fail to and succeed to get over their trauma. Art is incredibly subjective, and I know there's a lot of people who aren't going to share my thoughts on Berserk in that way, but for me, this is one of the most emotionally accurate and resonant stories I've ever come across, regardless of medium, especially in the utilization of the difference in processing and dealing with trauma between Guts and Casca. And again, this is something you can criticize, but for me, I've seen people in both extremes, consumed by anger and rage, unable to process their emotions and taking a long time to overcome that, and frozen with fear, taken to an extreme here obviously, but that's something I've also seen people struggle with. I can't wait to see how these characters hopefully continue to overcome it, because I'm so connected at this point. I really hope they do, and I'm not sure how I'll emotionally handle it if they don't. And finally, I just want to give a big thank you to the Berserk fandom. You guys were adamant that I would eventually love this, and you're entirely right. No, I've not loved every manga that's been recommended to me, but the fandom has been incredibly welcoming to my dumbass just kind of wandering through these stories and doing my best. I'm not the most observant, I'm not the most insightful, but I've hopefully made you laugh. Without any further ado, like and subscribe if you have not already. Hit the Patreon if you want to support what I do here, get the uncensored version of these videos, and have a good one, y'all. I love you. Peace.